Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for another Premier League preview. I'm still excited by the fact that we're doing Premier League previews again. I know we've already played 2 games. I'm still kind of excited we're back because the summer was way too long. I can't handle summers without international tournaments. Like, it's just too long. Like, I understand for the teams, it's all great, and we have a longer preseason and everything. But for me, as just being the football fan, I'm not a fan. So I'm glad about a World Cup in November, but I would have just rather had it in the summer, you know what I mean? And then a normal season. That would have been better. But I'm still excited about Premier League previews and a bit of transfer news because, I mean, it's August 19th now. The window shuts in pretty much 2 weeks. So we've got a bit to go, but not that much left of that window. So we need to get a move on. We have time running out. Like, we'll talk about the Aubameyang stuff. We'll talk about Fofana. We'll talk about, well, I'll question where Lewis has his 4 clubs interested in Pulisic title from, because I have no idea. I haven't seen that. So maybe some of you in the chat will be able to help us out when we get to that. But as you can see, we are joined by phenomenal guests. Absolutely phenomenal. We're joined by Ian for the first time in, I feel like, a few weeks. So thank you, Ian, for being back. We hope you're well.
Hello.
I know your knee's a bit unwell, but we hope you're well otherwise.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, a little bit of a catch-up before we get into the more detailed things. So a couple of questions. Number one, it's nearly a week since the Spurs game.
Yep.
How do you feel now in hindsight of that?
I was always fine from the word go. I mean, how many times we played a big team early doors and people seem to forget about the game like it didn't happen? I mean, Spurs won't. They'll make DVDs about it for years to come, I'm sure. But either way, for us, you know, we went into the game as underdogs. We come away from the game with a point, which, to be honest with you, before kickoff, if you'd have said to me a point's on offer, would you take it? I probably would, to be honest with you. I know it's a bit pessimistic, but I mean, we dominated them, absolutely dominated them. Yeah, they got there, of course, you know, lucky goal at the end, the referee, and that's what I can be frustrated at. But realistically, Chelsea played really, really well. And I just think it says a lot more about them as a club than it does about us. So the fact that we are a bit annoyed and we are, you know, a bit frustrated, I mean, just shows what we believe as fans we can do with this team. So, you know, it's all right. I'll take it. Being the underdogs as well, which obviously Chelsea in the last few years haven't been that often. It was quite nice to see us come out and really up our game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, sure, it's frustrating that we dropped those points, and it definitely was, and all the hilarious stuff that has gone on with the FA, and then Mike Dean basically contradicting what the FA said on Tuesday, which is the most hilarious thing. It's all a little bit annoying, but like Ian said, the fact that we played so well, especially compared to our first game against Everton, where I was really a bit disappointed by how we actually played. The result, great, brilliant, but the performance really wasn't it. And against Spurs, that showed me a lot more, almost like a light, you know, a big light where I'm like, okay, I can be looking forward to the season. I don't have to be concerned about whatever else. It's basically just we still have the same issues. We can play well when we turn up, but then we just don't take all of our chance, unfortunately. And sometimes we get robbed by referees. And then the next question for you, Ian, just to, again, there's a little bit of a catch-up. How do you see our transfer dealings? Obviously, we've spoken about Sterling and Koulibaly before, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But about what's to come still, or probably still to come, whether it's the interest in Aubameyang, interest in Fofana. What do you make of all of these? And potentially also now that Kante is injured again, also for weeks, is a midfielder needed? And then what is happening here? Ignore that. But anyway, do you know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about all of those?
You can probably go back and find clips of me somewhere. The main thing I said we needed this window is a central midfielder. Frankie de Jong become available. I haven't really heard anything about that. I think that, you know, there was a real time, and obviously there was a lot of interest about Barcelona and what they were doing as a club in general. There could have been a real opportunity to pounce because they were going to take him to court. They were going to do all these different things. I'd like to see Chelsea be a bit more ruthless because there's a lot of, we really like De Jong, we really like this, we really like that. But realistically, I mean, maybe there's something that's gone on behind the scenes I don't know about, but I still want to see a centre midfielder come in because we've got Jorginho and Kante next summer are both free agents. I personally would have sold one this year. Take your pick, either one of the two. I probably would have lent towards Kante because he's on the higher wage, but you know, it could have been either one of the two in terms of him and Jorginho. But for me, the most important area was a central midfielder. Yes, you had to go and buy centre backs. Yes, I would have probably liked to centre forward as well, but we were in a crap situation this year with the centre halves, you know, with obviously Rudiger going and Aspi for a while looking like he was going. And then obviously, of course, Christensen as well. You know, we could have lost 3 major assets. That literally is about to happen in central midfield, and no one's talking about it. So, you know, why are we kind of avoiding it? But for me, I think that the most important position of need is still central midfield. I've said it from week 1. Yeah, we need centre halves. Yeah, we need a centre forward. Aubameyang looks like it could be a good option. I'm sure we'll come on to him a little bit later on. But I still want to see that central midfield because it's so crowded as a room at the moment. But next year we are, you know, basically, if we don't have 3 or 4 different options potentially coming in or even being thought about coming in, because everyone knows next summer we need to buy central midfielders and the prices will be through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fully disagree, if I'm honest. Like, do I personally think it needed to be a Rice or a De Jong? No. But
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
What I most definitely feel is, even if we stick to Jorginho as the main defensive of the double pivot, even if we stick with that, that's fine. No problem. If that's what Tuchel wants to do, I have no problem with that. But then we still need a backup to him, because we don't have a backup to Jorginho. And throughout the season, especially with Kante and Kovacic constantly being injured, like, Jorginho will have to play so much again that by the time we get to February, he will be completely dead, probably have a bit of a poorer second half of the season, like he did last season, because he's completely overplayed. And therefore, like I said, whether it's De Jong and he somehow becomes the backup to Jorginho, or he turns Jorginho to the backup, I don't know. I don't care. But we need something. Now, do I think it's necessarily the biggest priority? Maybe not. But it's certainly a priority. And yeah, the De Jong situation is a bit... I'm also not too confident about the Aubameyang stuff, because if Barcelona stick to what they want and we stick to not offering more, then this just sounds like we wasted another 2.5, 3 weeks by the time we decide to pull out, of wasting time trying to get a player that we're not going to get. Like, we already did that with Koundé. Can we stop wasting, like, figure out whether you can get a player, figure out what it's going to cost, and then are you willing to pay that, yes or no? If you're not, go away. Like, leave it and look at somebody else. And if you are, then pay it. Because it's August 19th. We do not have time to faff about anymore. Like, we need to get these players in, for flip's sake. Imagine we don't have our players done by the time we play Champions League football. Like, I know that will be a week into September. But even then, by the time we start Champions League football, half our signings will have been here for about a week. Like, do you know what I mean? It's mental. Yeah. We need to get things done. And I understand that obviously we were a bit delayed with the sanctions and the takeover of the club. So I'm not having a huge go at everyone for that it is this late. I'm not. I'm just saying, now it is late. Now we really need to make sure we don't leave it too late and we don't miss out on, because it's getting late. Because the later you try to sign players off clubs, the less likely they are to agree to it, because they also still need to sign a replacement. That's the whole Fofana issue, in my opinion. We need to get this done because they need their own replacement. And the longer we fail to complete that, the less time they will have, and the longer we wait, the higher they'll probably raise their asking price. I mean, I'm not sure on that, but just thinking about it logically, if I was them, the less time I had left to find a replacement, the more money I'd ask for the player that I'm not really trying to let go of.
That's literally the Jules Koundé situation. Leah is literally the same as Koundé. It's exactly the same.
Obviously, Fofana really does want to join us, and Koundé didn't, so that is obviously a bit of a difference. But in terms of that, we just need to get it done type thing. It has certain similarities. But Pice, thank you for being here as always, my friend. I mean, I kind of touched on it already, but what's your reaction to what Ian said in terms of the midfielder situation? Because now that De Jong looks unlikely, the Sporting guy, I swear, has he gone somewhere? But there's no, like, there was maybe minor interest being reported, but nothing exactly like we're moving. And again, it's August 19th, where we're only signing 18 and 19-year-old midfielders in Casanaya and Chukwuemeka, like, which is great if they're good, if they turn out amazing, brilliant. But doesn't help us right now.
Yeah, I mean, earlier I literally did a tweet. I was saying, can't really understand why midfield right now isn't an urgent priority. Like, I want a striker too, but we still have Havertz and we still have Broja. Like, there should be no rush, in my opinion, to get Aubameyang. But it looks like we're going to go after him and obviously Fofana first. I mean, Fofana's been active, to be fair, for a while. So, yeah, but I mean, the midfield, bro, like, Loftus-Cheek, for me, I know he can play in there. I know Chukwuemeka can play there. I know Gallagher can play there. But numbers doesn't equal quality or sustainability. Like, for me, it just feels like doing that just is kind of patching over the major issue we do have in there. I mean, Chukwuemeka, we haven't even seen him play yet, not even off the bench. So it's kind of worrying. I do want to get another midfielder
Was
in.
he on the bench against Spurs?
I mean, come off the bench. He hasn't come off the bench yet, right?
No.
So,
But was he on the bench? I can't remember.
I don't think so. No.
So we haven't even seen him make the bench, let alone come off it.
Yeah, no. But I just think, I 100% agree with Ian's point as well with Jorginho. He's going to end up getting slandered by our fans when he literally is going to be playing too much. He's going to get overplayed. Now, luckily for us, Italy don't have the World Cup, so maybe Jorginho will get a rest, but it's still not really fair on him. Especially when we're going to be playing 2 games a week. I can't understand why it's not an urgent priority. Tuchel's going to have to find some solutions, especially, I mean, he's not even said how long Kovacic is out, but Kante's out for some weeks and it doesn't look good. Now, I know we're still trying to get De Jong and stuff, but that literally depends on if he decides to stay. And waiting for a player that wants to stay at a club, you'd think at least 80% chance they find a solution and he stays if he really wants to stay there.
Especially if we're part of them finding a solution by trying to buy Aubameyang off them.
Exactly. I think it's a dangerous game to play. I really do. I hope we get another midfielder at least. We need it, bro. We really do. It will hurt us badly because I think Kante, as much as I love him, he's just like he starts 2 games and he pulls his hamstring. Like we can't be doing this anymore. And Kovacic, Kovacic will come back, probably play 5 games in a row, and then he might pick up a knock again. Like it's just. It's painful to see, bro. The midfield definitely does need some additions, at least one.
And some additions that aren't injured all the time, that would help. Because, especially like Kante, okay, he didn't come to the USA preseason tour because of his vaccination status, but he still trained at Cobham for the whole period. Like, as far as we were publicly aware, there was no injury concerns throughout all of preseason. Tuchel in the press conference today said Kante was super fit. And still, he plays 2 games and comes back injured. So it's not even a case of that if we leave him be a little bit. And these games weren't back-to-back. That wasn't a midweek game. That was a Saturday game and then a Sunday game. So that was 8 days between those games. And he picks up an injury. So, even less load isn't the problem for Kante, judging by that. I mean, it can be. But judging by that, the problem against Spurs of that injury wasn't the fact that he had too much load. Otherwise, we're doing something wrong with training. And I assume we're not. Do you know what I mean? But, Pies, before I take it to Charlie, how do you feel ahead of Leeds? Because we need to get back to winning as much as we're all quite happy with how we played, or very happy with how we played against Spurs, and trying to ignore a little bit how we're annoyed at the fact that we dropped 2 points. We still need to go back to winning because Liverpool keep dropping points, City and Arsenal are not. So, we can't afford to drop more points. So, do you feel confident that we can get the dub even with Kante and Kovacic missing? Well, and Broja and potentially Pulisic?
So I'm a bit 50. Okay, no, I'm not. I'm probably 60-40 in favour of us. I just think I don't like the fact that I never like the fact that our manager isn't going to be on the touchline or managing us. I just hate that. I really hate that. Is that even confirmed this way? Because I swear I read Conte will be. Well, I mean, they asked Jesse Marsch, like, are you looking forward to shaking hands with Tuchel? And he was like, well, Tuchel won't be there because he got a red card. And then they said it's to be confirmed. I mean, I don't know how he can. Surely he's touchline banned. I don't know. But I was wondering why.
I think I might have a bit of insight on that. I think it's because Chelsea were waiting to put a big appeal in. I think they were going to try and appeal against Taylor and Mike Dean, and then the red card, where Spurs were just going after Conte. So I think it got moved through quicker. I think anyway.
So do you think he'll be managing us then?
I don't think he will. I think Chelsea will try and take up a real serious problem with it.
But that will be the next piss take by the FA, though. If Conte is fine and Tuchel is not. Like, okay, I understand that the really bad issue after the final whistle, that was Tuchel's instigation and not Conte's. Fair enough. So maybe that's the reason, but that would just be them bailing it out again. But hey, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, to be honest with you, it was Conte's fault because he was just a little bitch when he. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, of course he was. Of course he was. Tuchel was the guy that held on to the handshake and didn't let go. Do you know what I mean? And then they're like, "Oh, look me in the eye while I'm shaking your hands." And then there's God knows how many pictures, but Tuchel doesn't look in the eyes of whoever's hand he's shaking. Whoever's hand.
I find it funny as well. Tuchel said earlier in the press conference, he was like, "If there weren't 20 people around us, it would have ended very quickly."
Good man.
But yeah, no,
that is funny.
I
was quite happy to see, like, Conte flipped for a second, but Tuchel didn't even flinch. I was like, fair play, lad. Fair play. But yeah, there you go. Charlie, let me take it to you. Finally coming to you. My apologies. How are you feeling ahead of the Leeds game? I've asked the boys about transfers, but let's focus a bit more on the Leeds game. You confident?
Yeah, I think so, mate. We've got a pretty good record against Leeds in recent years. Obviously, the double over them last season. We got a good record at Elland Road as well. Over the years, we've done very well there. Our away form is also decent as well. Very good away form last season. Started the season with a win at Goodison Park, which we don't normally do in recent years. So that's a big plus as well. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason to feel not that confident headed into this game. Obviously, yes, the midfield's going to be perhaps a little bit of an issue, but again, I think we've got more than enough to combat Leeds. But the big thing for me is, can we get anywhere near that level of performance that we had last week against Tottenham? Because it's one, as Tuchel was saying in his press conference, it's one thing, getting up for a derby match. Everyone can raise their game for a derby because, there's that little bit of extra spice around it. But can we sort of find that extra level from ourselves for this game against Leeds? I'm not expecting us by any circumstances to turn up and play as well as we did against Tottenham, but I expect us to play much better than we did against Everton. So somewhere in the middle, really. It would be great if we could play as well as we did against Tottenham, but I just don't think. I don't know. I'm not sure we've got it in us to sort of find that level of performance sort of 2 weeks in a row, and I think that's what Tuchel's alluding to in his press conference, that that's the next step for these players, is to find that on a consistent basis. When he's referring to, it's all right doing it when you're playing once a week, or when we're playing sort of 2-3 times a week, 60 games a season. Can we find that level more times than not? That's the big question. But in reference to the Leeds game, I don't see us having too many problems here. I know we bang on about chance creation and stuff, but I think there was like a graphic doing the rounds on Twitter about the fact that we actually do create a reasonable amount of chances. We just don't actually put it in the net. Yes, it would be great to have, to replace Fabregas and have someone that can pick a pass from the midfield, because despite all the strengths that, the skill set that Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho have got, etc., they don't really. I mean, Jorginho's done it on occasions, but we don't really have that player in the midfield that can pick a pass like that De Bruyne pass to Haaland against West Ham. Just something where we're playing against a low block team. We need something, and we've seen it a number of times.
We also don't play a position that De Bruyne plays.
No, we don't. But the number of times last season, particularly at home as well, where we've played against teams that are set up with a low block. Dropping points to Burnley at home, dropping points to Everton at home. Those sort of games. If we had someone that could pick a pass in that midfield, I think that would massively help us. Yeah, but have us missing. Yeah, but I think that would massively help. But again, just someone clinical. I think if Aubameyang can come in and we still create the same amount of chances, then I think we will see us score more goals for sure. But yeah, I don't see any reason not to feel confident for this Leeds game. Leeds, I think, are on the same points as us from the first two. I think they beat Wolves and they drew to Fulham. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty certain that's what they. Yeah, I think that's what they've done. So, I think I feel confident heading into this game, mate. I don't see any reason why we should be sort of concerned about Leeds or thinking that we might not win. But of course, every game you go into, there's a chance that you might not win. But I do think we have got enough about us to win. I think it's really important that we bounce back from. It feels odd saying a disappointment because we played so well, but the disappointment from dropping points so late in the day and obviously being done over by the ref and whatnot. So yeah, I think it's vital that we do win and kind of get as many points on the board as possible. Because whilst we're in a unique situation at this stage of the season where we have got sort of 5-6 days between games. There's a lot of time to prepare for these games. Obviously, once we play Leicester next weekend, we're then into the midweek games because we then play Southampton the following Tuesday. And then it starts that packed schedule up to the World Cup, Champions League group stage coming in, domestic cup coming in with the League Cup. I think
we might have 1 week after that with our midweek game before the Champions League starts.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
But so it's important to get the points on the board whilst because then once the games start coming thick and fast, a lot more rotation comes into the side and whatnot. So yeah, but for Leeds, I feel confident, mate. I haven't seen anything from the first 2 games to suggest that we should be worried about them. If I'm being
completely honest with you, I haven't seen anything of Leeds on the first 2 days. If I'm being completely transparent.
No, I mean
I haven't seen nothing.
Yeah, to be honest, mate, I don't see us having too many problems. But with football, you just never know. But I would expect us to win.
There you go. I mean, I tweeted this the other day. I can't remember when it was, but basically that as much as it's frustrating the whole referee thing and dropping points against Spurs, that I kind of feel like what happened with everything surrounding that could, if anything, be the reason why we do manage to get at least reasonably close to that performance again. Because I feel like those kind of situations, those kind of dramatic moments, those kind of emotional moments in games against big rivals can, number one, bring the team closer together. Number one, bring a bit of a spirit within the team where we're going to prove them all wrong. Like in terms of prove them all wrong, in terms of we are much better than dropping points against Spurs because the referee robbed us, but also just we're going to show them all, like F all of these lot. And I think, and I hope that the team can make use of that. Now, it will be easier if Tuchel is allowed to be there. If Tuchel is not there, it makes it a bit more difficult. But I still think that this whole vibe that we got after the Spurs game, playing well, but being robbed, that can actually create a little bit of momentum. We just need to make sure we actually make use of it. And, I think it could allow us to now go on a bit of a run. And I hope we do that. You did say, Charlie, we have a good record at Elland Road. Well, if the journalist at the press conference that asked Thomas Tuchel the question is correct, apparently we've never won back-to-back away at Elland Road. So we might have an overall good record, but apparently we've never won back-to-back, and we did win last season. So hopefully we change that not winning at Elland Road thing. We did win last season, didn't we? Pretty sure we did. Like 2-1 or whatever, with Mendy making like 2 or 3 wonder saves. Pretty sure.
Didn't we draw 1-1
maybe?
No, because Mount scored a pretty good goal, top bins in the first few minutes, and Lukaku scored there as well. So I think it might have been 2-1, maybe 3-1. I think Ziyech might have scored as well.
1-1. I thought we drew.
Lukaku scored. That sounds like a lie.
Yeah, Lukaku scored. I promise. We beat Leeds
3-2. We won actually. Yeah, 3-2.
That was at home. 3-2 was at home with the Jorginho penalty. Yeah, and then I think we won 3-1 or 2-1 away.
Well, actually, away we won 3-0.
I was on holiday. Yeah, we did. We
did. Yeah,
3-0 even. 3-0.
3-0. There we go.
Lukaku late on. Yeah. 3-0. Yeah. But Mendy made some wonder saves anyway. Regardless, let's hope we change this thing of us not winning back-to-back away at Elland Road. That's not fun. One last thing I wanted to touch upon, which you just touched upon, but now I can't think of what it was. This whole the fact that we create chances. I feel like maybe that's a bit of a topic to discuss, because I've seen that as well since Tuchel has taken over, like how many chances we created, and then conversion rate, and also amount of shots on target compared to shots in general and stuff. While this stat is clearly true, I think is the situation in Chelsea is we have either one of two things. Either we're really good and we create unbelievable amount of chances, or we create nothing. Because we definitely have games where we create nothing. Yeah, sure, those stats maybe tell you we create all these chances, but no Chelsea fan can tell me that they've watched us over the last, except pre-season, of course, the last few months of last season and the game against Everton, and tell me that we create loads of chances all the time. We clearly do not. We clearly have games where we create F-hole completely. We'll always have 1 or 2 chances, sure. With Chelsea Football Club, of course we do. But in terms of, especially with the lack of clinical strikers we need to create a bit more than that. And we definitely don't create most of the league on a regular basis. We just have some periods and some specific games. We create such crazy amount of chances that then obviously the grand scheme of the stats shows us being incredible all the time. If that makes sense, Ian, you're nodding your head. Would you agree with that?
So the problem with us is, again, someone mentioned it earlier on in the comments. I can't remember who it was now, but said about the Leeds play a low block. With the way that Chelsea play, it allows any team in the league to play a low block against us. Leeds are always, very forward thinking, really play quite high. But because we take so long to move the ball, it just allows every single person in that Leeds defence to get back into a position where they can play a low block. And I think the thing with the, when you compare to Liverpool and City and others, they're like us, playing with a low block against them very early on, very, very early on. And we can play against a low block. We can do it. We've shown that we can do it in the past, but it's just not consistent. That's the problem, where City and Liverpool, those two especially, and also Arsenal now to a degree because they've got Gabriel Jesus, they easily can play for a low block. And the second they go ahead, that low block starts to just kind of shrink because people have to think about then going and scoring a goal themselves, get back in the game or whatever it can be. Where Chelsea struggled to score for so long, struggled to break down this low block for so long, that even if we do win a game, we don't create loads of chances because of the fact we actually don't get allowed that room in comparison. So we do create chances in one aspect, but it's not always consistent because we don't do it quickly enough. If we go straight into a game, 20 minutes in, we're 1-0 up, and then 5 minutes later, we don't have a lot of
easy chances. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, say it again.
Obviously, Kai's one against Reece James was easy, but I feel like we create chances, but they're not often enough easy chances. While I see Cities and sometimes Arsenal, they create themselves a tap in from 2 yards.
Yeah.
When do we have tap ins from 2 yards? And when we do, they miss them anyway.
That's perfect for what I was going to say. Because we take the ball, because we take so long to move the ball. Arsenal move the ball quickly now, especially at the moment. City have always done it. Liverpool have always done it. They move the ball quickly, so there is errors that potentially are in the back line. You know, maybe somebody's not set properly. Maybe one of the centre halves slightly further forward than the other. Whatever it is, and it then leaves you with one-on-ones. If you don't play quickly, and this is where I really get frustrated with Jorginho, because I know he can do it, but when you don't play quickly enough, those gaps don't appear because, again, everyone is set. The more time you give a team to really grasp the opportunity to defend, that's it. Game done and dusted for Chelsea because we can't break it down. Where City and Arsenal, even if it will take them a little bit of time to get forward, when they do actually go for it, it's 3 or 4 really fast, accurate passes, and it's in the back of the net. And that's the problem, really, because it's not only about creating a chance, it's about creating opportunity to then create the chance. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the thing we just don't do. Because when you get Jorginho, you know, centre of the pitch, maybe he's 25 yards away from goal, maybe a little bit more, something like that. You know he's not going to shoot. You know he's not going to bang it because he's never done it previously. So you can allow him to have the ball in that space, be really, really comfortable, knowing the fact that
he's also too good at keeping the ball, so they don't even bother pressing him in that situation.
Sorry, say that again?
In that position, once he's that high, they also don't bother pressing him because they know if they press him, he's just going to release it anyway. And they're never going to get the ball off him in that area. So
they're just comfortable. They're just chilling. Absolutely fine. Not a problem at all. And then you start to, someone said about moving the ball from left to right, side to side, wasting time. And all that's doing is just getting people back into positions to really make an impact for Leeds or for whoever, whatever side it's going to be. That's why I personally get frustrated with Jorginho. Having said that, it's not only Jorginho's responsibility. You know, make the ball do the work. We talk about Kante and Kovacic driving the ball up the pitch. It's good, but the ball moves quicker when it's just kicked by itself. You know, really start to open up the play. Think quickly, quick one-touch passes if you can, or at least play a little bit of a longer ball for someone like Reece James or Chilwell out wide or Mount or something like that to just get into those areas to really make an impact without having 4 or 5 people standing right in front of them, now having to deal with every single one of them. You could just deal with 1 or 2. And it would just make so much sense. And it really irritates me why we aren't doing it.
I agree completely. Do I personally think that it's necessarily a Jorginho thing? Maybe not. I think it's
it's not purely Jorginho, but he's just
I know what you're saying. I think it's a case of as a team we build too slowly, and I also think that our forwards don't make movements that our midfielders either understand or that work. Like people love this example, that one where De Bruyne played that through ball to Haaland, and then they showed an example of where Loftus-Cheek didn't play the through ball to Werner. And I'm like, can you not, like, number one, they're bad screenshots, but even let's take these screenshots then that they tried to show us, right? In that moment, Haaland was about to break the offside line as De Bruyne had the ball on his right foot, ready to pass. Werner was making the run, about to be offside, as Loftus-Cheek took a touch with his left foot. So what? The runs by the attackers also need to be adjusted to where the midfielder is with the ball right now. Like if Ruben's taking the ball just inside onto his weaker foot, where he's less likely to play a wonderful through ball, and he's just taking a touch, that shows you that is a bad run by Werner, because by the time the ball would come, he's offside, which is half our problem with Werner half the time, that he was offside so flipping much because he didn't time his runs correctly. And then it was, but Werner, so many runs that wasn't fine. No, yeah, he made runs, but he didn't time. Sure, some of that is also on the midfielders. Maybe Ruben shouldn't take the ball onto his weak foot in that moment. But that is a screenshot. I don't remember the situation. Did he have a reason to have to take it on his weak foot there? Or did he not? I don't know. But regardless, fact of the matter is that screenshot was the worst comparison and the worst sign for this is why we don't score. Anyway.
And you're getting really worked up about it because it involves Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
Less so. Like, actually, it had more to do that people were trying to excuse Werner's shitness. That was the part that riled me up more, if I'm honest. But I just think we need to have a bit more movement, if I'm honest. Why I'm confident against Leeds is because I expect them to press. And when the opposition presses, they have a few more men up. And then if we have a good counter press to their press, then we have space. And then we usually know what to do. And that's usually why we play reasonably well against Liverpool, because that's exactly what Liverpool do, essentially. While City operate in a they press, but they don't press they don't press without losing control. Liverpool press and lose control, but they're just except against City, they don't do it against them. Sometimes they hold it back against us a little bit, but just see their last 2 games. That's how they didn't win those 2 games, because they press, lose the ball, and then if the opposition is good at counter-attacking, they're screwed. That's what happens to them. And then if Van Dijk thinks defending with aura is how you defend, rather than actually defending, then Zaha will have the easiest goals he'll ever score, which is fair enough. But yeah, I can't remember how we got to this conversation, if I'm being perfectly honest. But how did we get to this? I'm so confused.
I don't remember.
Regardless.
Something to do with midfield. Oh, that's all I remember.
Something to do with midfield. That is very true. Pice. Now, before we get back into the game and we discuss the exact formation that we would like, or team that we would like to see, let's quickly get a bit of transfer news out the way, shall we? And ladies and gentlemen, we also have 340 people watching, which I very much appreciate. So if you're new here, please be sure to subscribe. We're about 60 odd away from 15,000 subscribers. So theoretically, if there's enough of you here right now, we could hit that today. Maybe not. Maybe we'll hit it on Sunday. But make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I'd very much appreciate it. Would love to hit that milestone before we set our sights on the big 20K. But yeah, get subscribed, smash that like button for me, and follow all of my wonderful guests. Links are down in the description below. But, Pice, now there has been reports by Fabrizio Romano that we've basically all but confirmed agreed personal terms with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Is that level of information shared by multiple sources, or is Fabrizio kind of the only one saying that?
Yeah, other Spanish sources as well. I only really take credibility from Jared Romero as the main Barcelona report, and obviously Relevo. I can never say the outlets' names. Relevo, I think. Yeah, they're pretty good for Spanish stuff. So yeah, they've both said that but personal terms aren't really an issue. It's just about the final bid now. Romero said we already bid 22 mil like a couple of days ago. Relevo said we've bid 20 mil, 4 million of those being variables or bonuses. So the main bid being 16 mil. So yeah, up to obviously Barca what they do now. And then you've obviously got Fabrizio saying, well, we only want to pay 15 mil. We might walk away. So a bit conflicting reports on the price. But I do expect this one to get done just because of the amount that Tuchel clearly wants him. I think Tuchel will be very pissed off if we walked away. So yeah, I expect this one to get done. So
do you disagree with Fabrizio, who said we're not going to bid much more than the 50 million pounds and Barca 130? Or do you think they will lower their expectations?
Well, I mean, Barca can want what they want, but at the end of the day, they don't really have a leg to stand on. Especially if they want to keep Frenkie, they need to sell players and they need to register players. So they got Aubameyang on a free. It's free profit for them. Just take the 15, 20 mil that we're offering and move on. So yeah, I think they will accept our offer.
The only thing that I'm not sure about with Barcelona is, are they, because of the financial situation, are they going to let Depay and Aubameyang go? Or is it a case of if they let Depay go, both?
Yeah.
Because they still haven't terminated the contract with Depay, have they? So they will demand the transfer fee for him as well, won't they not?
I think it's getting really close. I think Fabrizio said he's close to Juventus. I'm not sure whether that's permanent.
Yeah. But will it be with a terminated contract? And then
I'm not sure, bro. I've not really read up on it, but I know it's getting closer. So yeah, I reckon this one will be done over the weekend. I mean, the main thing was personal terms and agreeing with Aubameyang's camp, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Well, now, I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Now, I was absolutely crucified on Twitter yesterday when I said that I don't like the fact that Aubameyang has an Arsenal tattoo. Now, I will say...
It's for his kids, Laurenz. It's for his kids, mate. How could you?
When I tweeted this, I was of the belief that he had some sort of Arsenal badge on him. Kind of like, I don't know if people know Poet, but Poet has like an Arsenal badge tattooed on him. And I'm like, well, I'm not a fan of that. Do you know what I mean? And people are like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm like, I'm not saying he's the biggest problem in the world, but like, think about this. Think about having a player at Chelsea that has a tattoo of one of our biggest rivals. That's kind of weird. But
you
then
always
I found
do.
out that it's not actually an Arsenal tattoo. It's just, well, it is a picture in an Arsenal shirt, but you can't see that it's an Arsenal shirt. It's basically just him holding hands with the kids, right? Once I found out, I deleted the tweet. I'm like, okay, I was clearly misinformed about what this tattoo is.
Bro, you always do that one tweet a month where you just get cooked. I love to see it.
But to be fair, usually I'm like, I stick by what I said, but this time I'm like, okay.
I saw
not how I thought it is, and I'm like, okay.
I saw like 40, 50 quotes. I was like, oh, what's going on here? Then I had to have a little look, and then I was like, because the thing is, I actually agree with you. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but like Arsenal, I don't really I don't know, but yeah, it's
Like, if
kind
it
of
was
not
an
that
actual Arsenal badge, I would most certainly stick to what I said. I don't
Exactly,
think we
yeah.
should have a player that has an Arsenal
No.
badge tattooed on them. And then people
that
came
is
at me with,
weird.
so we should have never signed Fabregas. I'm like, how is that comparable? What? Like, how is that the same thing? Fabregas was in his very prime when we signed him, not Aubameyang, who's 33. That's a completely different situation. And also, we're not paying. We didn't also pay stupid money for Fabregas, comparing to now Aubameyang, because what you haven't said yet, Pies, and what we discussed just before we went live, is the report on his wages. That apparently he's going to earn double of what he's earning at Barcelona, where he's currently earning £145,000 or euros, undebated, or Pies says pounds, but I feel like I read it as euros, so whatever it is. But double that would be nearly 300k. I'm like, excuse yourself, but better not be paying 33-year-old Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang 300k. Absolutely not. We're also not paying him 280k. I'll start a protest myself. I'll be fuming. No, but still, like, no, absolutely not. Come on now. But as much as I'm not a big fan of signing Aubameyang personally for toxicity reasons, for past reasons, for Tuchel putting faith into players that worked for him in the Bundesliga, but the Premier League is so different that I just fear that won't work personally. But hopefully I'm wrong, sorry. And Tuchel knows much better than me and proves me completely wrong. That's what I hope for if we sign Aubameyang. But there's also Fofana, where we've had a little bit of development, haven't we, Pies? Because he's been left out of the squad, but there's been different reports as to like did Rodgers decide that, or did Fofana ask to be left out? There's been kind of different reports now, I swear.
Yeah, so completely different reports. I think the Athletic's Leicester correspondent said Fofana asked to be left out, and then a few others like Nathan Gissing actually said it was Leicester's decision. Then there was Sky Sports Leicester reporter who said it was Rodgers' decision, and then also the guy from RMC Sport, Fabrice Hawkins, who actually was the first one to ever break the Koulibaly deal, said it was completely Leicester's decision. And I think he has quite close contacts because Fofana used to play over there. So yeah, interesting one for sure. I mean, the interesting thing was as well, Fofana came out of a tweet and he replied under something which suggested he asked to be left out the squad, and he said, like, you know, are people making stuff up again? So that tends to lean me towards the fact that it was probably Rodgers' decision. He deleted it in like a minute as well, like even under a minute, but people got screenshots of it. So yeah, I mean, if it's Rodgers' decision and Fofana wanted to play, I mean, that's good for us, because as far as I'm concerned, that's just going to make Fofana even more annoyed. So yeah, I think this could be good for us.
I know I'm muted. Sorry. Yeah, no, I agree. It has to be a good thing. Like, if he's left out of the squad, that can only mean there's somewhat, you know, we're getting somewhat closer to getting things done. And again, like I'm saying, it's August 19th. We need to start getting things done now. And Natty, there might be a fair point to say he's Prem proven, sure, but so was Lukaku. Lukaku was Premier League proven, and that didn't work. So being Premier League proven is not, I mean, Ian saying maybe he's not Premier League proven. Well, he scored more Premier League goals than Didier Drogba, so I would say that's Premier League proven.
He was bottom half Premier League proven, put it that way.
He won a golden boot.
But were Arsenal ever good while Aubameyang was there?
Yeah, he won a golden boot.
Did he?
Yeah, Aubameyang, it was the one that was tied. He had 22 goals with Salah, and I think they shared it.
Yeah, that's it.
But he did score.
United then.
He scored 20 goals.
No, talking about Aubameyang.
I'm talking about Aubameyang. Who are you talking about? Lukaku. Are you also talking about Lukaku? I know Lukaku.
I don't remember him winning a golden boot.
No, I didn't.
No, I was talking about Aubameyang.
Did win a golden boot. That is very true, which is a fair point. But Lukaku also scored, I swear, 20 plus Premier League goals in one season. I think that was just the season Salah scored 30, right? So, you know, it's not all about golden boot. It's about how many.
Lukaku scored 12 one season for United and 16 in the other. So
say that in the first one again.
So Lukaku scored 16 in one season and then 12 the next season.
All right, fair enough. Certainly didn't score over 20 goals then, but he did definitely score more than 20 for Everton, did he not?
Oh yeah, he probably did. Everton, he was unreal. But
mate, just in regards, Laurenz, to that Aubameyang money thing, like I completely forgot. I was on my channel earlier streaming it. I swear there's something on Twitter and I can't find it, but I'm pretty certain that's it there from Jesters. Like Aubameyang, I think
that's before he got a rise though.
Was that before he got a rise?
Yeah.
If it was to be 160k for Aubameyang at Chelsea, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah. If that's the case, fair enough. But
Yeah.
obviously, like Pi said, he did get that raise. And then is that double wage talking before the raise or after the raise? If it's that, no problem. Fair enough. And Keyshawn, are you missing everything? Number one, Sebastian I literally moved clubs this summer. Also, he just had a testicular tumor removed from his ball sack. So I doubt we're going to sign him right now. Sorry, mate. But, like, it's probably not. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like, I'm not trying to have a go at Aubameyang. I'm just saying that being Premier League proven is not.
Hey man, look, we've got all the right. I mean, I usually argue with Laurenz all the time about transfers, but when it comes to strikers, like I'm excited about Aubameyang a little bit, but I can see like how are you not sort of skeptical? Like what striker has ever worked for us since Costa or Giroud? Like it's been a long, like especially if he takes number 9.
What was the most goals he scored? 10,
bro. If Aubameyang takes number 9, just send him back to Barca or whatever. I can't. He better not take number 9. Like we have to be skeptical. Like seriously, it's ridiculous.
Who is 14 at the moment? Is it still Chalobah?
Yeah, I think so.
Can't have that then.
But he might be going out on. He might go on
11.
It's actually a very good kind of segue almost. Pice, before I take all of this back to Charlie as well. Now I've seen people on Twitter talk about apparently Chalobah going somewhere, but I've not actually seen any reports about Chalobah going somewhere. Now I saw Nizam kind of half mention it in an article where he must have been talking about everything Chelsea transfer related, but I couldn't be bothered to read it, if I'm honest, because I can only read these paywall ones on my laptop, and I didn't have my laptop, so I didn't open it. But so what is this Chalobah leaving situation? Like, excuse yourself. Now we're having all this drama about, we need centre backs, and now we're getting rid of all of them. What?
Yeah, well, Chalobah will go out on loan if Fofana comes in, because then we would have 3 right centre backs technically. This is the problem when Azpi's going to stay because of James as well. Azpi, unfortunately, for me, is ahead of Chalobah. Like, for me, I wanted Azpi to leave, but yeah, I think those are going to be the 3 sort of right centre back options, and Chalobah is going to want game time. Fabrizio Romano said last night Inter Milan are interested. I know of Aston Villa as well, but I don't know the length of the interest there. But I know they're one of the clubs looking at him as well.
I'd much rather send him to Villa than Inter, personally.
Yeah, Diego Carlos got injured, and I was told that last night, so maybe that's one to keep an eye on as well.
All right, that's interesting. Now, personally, I don't think we should be sending Chalobah on loan. I think what we should be doing is using Azpi as purely a captain rather than a football player, and use him for the rest of the season as we have a captain, brilliant.
I don't disagree, man.
But not actually play him.
I don't disagree. I would much rather play Chalobah. I think, to be honest with you, I do feel quite bad for him because look, I mean, start of last season.
I know he had bad spells last season, but in general, he had a pretty good Premier League
first half of last season. He was pretty good, man. And then I did say this though when he had that stinker in pre-season twice. I was like, yeah, he's done. Like, there's no coming back for this. Like, the level is so high now that it's just. Like, you even see Colwell could have stayed, but he didn't play in pre-season. Even today, Tuchel was saying about Broja, like he likes Broja, but he's not really sitting him. So, it's another thing performing on loan, another thing performing for Chelsea. So the standards are so high. I personally don't agree with Azpi playing over him, but it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. It is what it is. At some point, the manager obviously has the final say and the decisive say. And on the one hand, I also understand, like Azpi maybe won't get that much game time once Fofana is here. And then rather than Chalobah being the one that doesn't get so much game time, being young and needing game time to develop, like if we have Fofana and Koulibaly, like unless our plan is to not sign another one and eventually move Fofana in the middle and make Chalobah starting right centre-back, whether we even stick to the same formation, who knows. But unless that is the plan, what's the whole point of Chalobah getting game time other than to raise his value to sell him? Because he's never going to be a regular starter unless Fofana is in the middle, right?
I was going to ask something here, just because I saw it the other day and it kind of confused me. It was by Chalobah. I don't know if you've seen, but he's like bringing out his own range of T-shirts.
Yeah. With Chelsea together as well.
I don't know what the brand is. I've got no idea, but I didn't really care.
I think he might have done it himself. I'm not sure if he's worked with any brand.
I think this is a self-push thing, which for me makes it seem like it's a bit of a money-making scheme, which hey, they each to their own, don't really care. But do you think there's a slight bit of doubt in Chalobah's mind? I'm asking to all of you. Do you think there's potentially a slight bit of doubt in Chalobah's mind that he might try and get the money whilst he can, whilst he's still Chelsea kind of, Chelsea centre half, and the interest is still there, because you see him now get moved or linked with a move away on loan. And then they've said about there's going to be no obligations or, options to buy or anything like that. But I kind of agree with you, Loz. It does kind of seem like, although this is very early doors, obviously, it's trying to make as much money as you can as quickly as possible, potentially with the clothing line. He might just really love it, and this might be absolutely nothing. I don't know.
I think he's very much so into fashion. So,
yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me that he's kind of started it, but it just seems very odd at the timing that he launches a clothing line or whatever, and then he potentially goes on loan. If he impresses, then maybe someone wants to buy him, and then he could get a bigger wage, higher wage, or whatever. But it just seems like it's all potential kind of red flags at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Because I really like.
Wouldn't you also say that doing a fashion line shows that he's not exactly busy looking for another club?
Yeah, I suppose you could.
I would
say
hold that in kind of.
Also, that's not his job, is it? Really, that's his agent's job.
It's true.
So I don't know. I just, it kind of seems like the kind of thing, striking while the iron's hot. I don't know if you have the phrase over in Austria.
No,
but,
it's
what I mean?
I don't really know what to make of it. I'd personally rather keep him, but
I would.
At the same time, it depends on what the plan is. Because Thiago Silva is nearly 38. He won't be able to play every game this season. So what will be interesting to find out come September probably is who plays central centre back when Thiago Silva is rested. That will be the interesting part. Now, will Ampadu in the end stay and all of a sudden get game time, or will then Koulibaly move into the centre?
I was having an argument with Alex Goldberg about this the other day, and I think Matisse, and I was like, mate, I couldn't get through to them. I was like, you need a second centre back backup. And they were like, well, Fofana can play that, Koulibaly can play that. I was like, no, but they're the starters. And they were like, well, Kukurea will play left centre back, Koulibaly second centre. I was like, no, they're going to need rest at different points. And then they did eventually say to me, well, they won't all be rested. They'll rest at different points. So I was like, okay, fair enough. But they better, we better find a way to, figure it out. Because for me, you do need that sort of, I don't know, maybe keep Ampadu around. But then again, I know he had an absolute stinker for the development team the other night. If you saw the cutback.
Well, but so did everyone that played in that, seemingly.
I know, but I mean, Tuchel was there and everyone was like, yeah, well, Ampadu's done watching that. It was horrible. But yeah, I mean, I'd rather have someone that, just instead of shifting everyone around all the time that's playing anyway, like have someone in the squad that's happy to do that. And I'm pretty sure he is happy to do that. So, yeah.
The problem is, so is Aspie, and they're playing the same position.
No, because Aspie would play on the right, wouldn't he? So, like, I mean...
Are you talking Ampadu again? Sorry, I thought it was the...
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, you're saying, like, when Silva rests, who is playing in the middle if we continue to play
I still think it's more likely that Fofana then plays in the middle, and then one of Aspie, and if Chalobah stays, plays right centre-back, personally.
Could you not potentially think that Chalobah could play in that centre, the middle centre-back role?
Maybe, but for Leicester, when Leicester play a back three, Fofana plays in the middle. So that tells me...
No, he plays on the right, bro.
No, he doesn't. When they're playing the back four, he plays the right centre back. But when they play a back three, he plays the
for free. He's been playing as a right. Like
but he's definitely played on the right hand side of a free for sure.
Yeah, he played there against Arsenal, and I think the game.
Maybe this season then, but all of the games at the latter end of last season, because I checked, every time they played a back three, he played in the middle, and every time they played a back four, he was the right next to Johnny Evans.
Well, Rodgers is just preparing him for Chelsea anyway. So, because I mean, this season. Arsenal right centre back and a free. Leicester, where did he play? I mean, Brentford, same position. Right centre back.
Also right on the three.
Yeah. They're getting him warm for us. Thank you, Rodgers.
There you go.
Proper Chelsea Rodgers.
Which is interesting because they're playing Amati, isn't he right-footed?
I don't know. Leicester do some
Amati is right-footed and a DM, and they're playing him left centre-back of a back three. Like,
I was going to say, surely the most worrying thing is the fact that he is a midfielder.
Leicester do some
exactly. And then playing him on the side where he's less comfortable because of the wrong strong foot. But like Melinda says, to be fair, when you buy one of these shirts that Chalobah is bringing out, it's like it is in combination with Chelsea because you can win home tickets to every Chelsea game. Now, of course, that could theoretically be Chalobah's allocation or whatever, and then he just gives those away and has nothing actually to do with Chelsea. But I still think it still feels a bit like Chelsea are somewhat involved in it, not necessarily them doing anything, but Chelsea have seen him doing all of these things off, and it's not like I'm doing this by myself type thing. But
I still won't be buying one.
Yeah, fair enough. To be honest, I don't even know what exactly they look like. I've seen what they are, but I've not seen what the actual shirt looks like. But someone said it. Chalobah's just seen how awful our shirts are, even though I quite like this season shirts. But it's just decided I've had enough. Nike are awful. I'm doing it myself. Fair enough. Charlie, what's your thoughts on the? We've nearly been streaming for an hour and we haven't even talked about the Leeds game much. My apologies, boys, but we will get there in a second. Charlie, what's your thoughts on the Chalobah situation? Like, do you think he should be going out on loan? Do you think we should keep him, or what do you make of it if he does go on loan? Because the part I haven't seen is now I've seen teams be interested in him, but what I've not seen is whether he wants to go anywhere or whether Chelsea would be willing to let him go anywhere. That's the part I haven't seen anything about, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think Chelsea, if Fofana comes in, like Pi said, then they're prepared to let Chalobah go out on loan. And obviously, if Fofana comes in, that does push Chalobah's minutes like even less than they currently are at the moment. I think has been hard done by. Had a breakthrough season last year, played a large number of games, did well, performed to a top level in both cup finals when he played. Yes, he made a few mistakes last season, but he's a young player still. First season at kind of the top level. And I think it's been hard done by, as Pi said, he made a few mistakes in pre-season, but that shouldn't be like suddenly then put him on the back, like put him out the side. I mean, this for me was always going to be the issue when Azpilicueta signed to stay for 2 years. For me, somehow he's found himself ahead of Chalobah in the pecking order, which shouldn't be the case at all. For me, Azpi, obviously club legend, grateful for all he's done, but he should very much be filling in at an absolute emergency, whether that's preferably at right centre-back or right wing back.
If we're honest,
if we're literally on the floor.
If that was the case, they would have never even signed a contract extension, would he?
No.
So
I think he's somehow found himself ahead of Chalobah, which I think is unfair. But then you look at the age of the squad and of the back line. You've got obviously Koulibaly 31. That's not too bad. But Azpi mid-30s. Obviously Thiago Silva 38. There are still minutes for Chalobah to have this season, but it is an odd one. But then I suppose
especially if it's not Ampadu that stays, right?
Yeah. But even if it
ends up being Fofana or Koulibaly in a minute.
I think it's important that if he goes out on loan, there's no buy option or there's no option or anything like that, because we've seen it time and time again. We basically gave away Tomori for nothing. Mark Gahey, slightly different, but he left as well. We don't want to have another situation where we let another top centre-back go.
At least it would only be a loan this time, like a proper.
Yeah, but in terms of having an option is what I mean. Like, we don't want any option in it in terms, because like Tomori was on loan, but that was an option. So I don't get it. But if he does go on loan, there's still time for him to come back, because Thiago Silva next season, if he does sign another contract, he's going to play. Well, I'll say he's going to play even less. Like, he keeps proving us all wrong, but you'd expect him to play less. Azpi would be another year older. I wouldn't be surprised if in Azpi's 2-year deal there might be an option to opt out after one season potentially. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense for me, to be honest. We've got someone that's a very good defender, and we need that depth in there, because, as you say, if one of those centre backs needs a rest, I don't want Azpi to be playing a prolonged period of games there. I'd rather have Chalobah there. So yeah, for me, it doesn't make sense, but it is what it is, really.
There you go. But while Charlie was talking, what I have been informed about, and it literally came out a minute ago, David Ornstein, probably alongside maybe a couple of others, but probably the most reliable journalist out there, at least over the past few years. And, I certainly got the least wrong, I would say. And when Ornstein gets involved and calls it an exclusive, he's usually right. But as he says, Chelsea have submitted a bid to sign Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from Barcelona, offer believed to be £15 million plus Marcos Alonso moving the opposite way. FC Barcelona yet to respond. Personal terms with the 33-year-old Gabonese striker would be no issue. Now, it wouldn't be 30 million, it would be 15, but it's essentially paying 30 million. So apparently their demand is 30 million euros. So what do we go and do? We offer them 50 million pounds, which is 18 million euros, plus Marcos Alonso, who we demanded 15 million pounds for. So they want 30 million euros, but we're essentially offering them 35.
I think Alonso was only going for about 10 million euros.
Yeah. They didn't want to pay more. But we personally wanted 15 million euros, I thought, right? So if this is our valuation of him, That would mean we're basically paying 35 million for Aubameyang now. I mean, mental. But in general, still better. Make sure you get rid of Alonso. Don't pay crazy money for Aubameyang. I mean, so I'm still not too much against it. Pice, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this information lines up exactly with what Fabrizio said, because he said Chelsea don't want to spend any more than £15 million cash. So I think I just read the article and it said like this is being suggested by Chelsea as an attempt to satisfy all parties involved. So I mean, I feel like this could be our one and only offer, because he said if they don't accept 15 million, we'll walk away. So I think this is the offer that we've put in and said, look, this is it. Take it, essentially, or leave it, I reckon.
There you go. Fair play. Fair play. Hey, let's move on. Let's move on and finally get to actually talking about the Leeds game, because there's a few discussion points that we will have and do have about who should start and play the game. Now, first and foremost, I would say we probably will, in general, line up still in our 3-4-3 system. Whether that then is again a case of like it was against Spurs and it shifts into a 4-2-2 or 4-3-3 at times during the game, that could be the case. I don't know whether we're going to deploy that against Leeds. I bloody hope so, because I'd be a huge fan of it for reasons that I'll get to later, even more so. But would you agree, Ian? Go with this and then hopefully also have a little bit of tactical flexibility like we did against Spurs, because we looked really good in it. Most certainly much better than we did against Everton when we were more, I don't know, rigid in this shape.
I think one of the main takeaways I took from the Spurs game was how Reece James was basically just told to man mark Son, and essentially man marked him out of the game, did incredibly well at it.
But then when we had the ball, he was basically playing right back.
Yeah, essentially. So, we were killing two birds with one stone, essentially, by having him as that right centre-half, because when he did have to go and move out into weird positions, then it became a back four. If we had to go and, we were on the ball and whatever, then it obviously turned into back four and then he slotted in. But one of the main things I'll say about this, I'm expecting to see Reece James play at that same position again. But of course, Leeds haven't got that Son Heung-min-esque player. So it'd be really interesting to see how different Reece James's role will look. And I think that will start basically from the back building forward. I think he's going to be probably the most vital piece in this.
Potentially. And especially with the players we're missing in midfield, having Loftus-Cheek essentially here, because if Reece plays here, that means Loftus-Cheek will be here, who can shift into midfield and help the lack of Kovacic and Kante, I suppose, and help maybe Gallagher, who could be that position then, and help him a little bit to not get overrun. So I think it would make a lot of sense. So I would personally probably agree. I think we're all in agreement that it's going to be...
guys, can I just say some more breaking news on Tuchel?
Yes.
Yeah. Tuchel has been fined £35,000 and a one-match touchline ban. However, the touchline ban has been suspended for now. Very interesting.
Yeah. So it's a suspended ban. So if he does anything wrong in the next 12 months, then he will get that. So basically, he will be on the touchline. Fantastic news. Where have you seen that? So I can bring it up on screen for people.
Oh shit!
It doesn't matter. I won't bring it up on screen.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Basically.
Fair enough.
Go to CFC Daily. I think he posted it.
Fair enough. See, it's a suspended. Interesting that CFC Daily worded it as suspended for now. What's the for now? Will they unsuspended between now and Sunday? I mean, it sounds like they say, but
I think it depends on what Chelsea. I think Chelsea's approach and what they want to do about Anthony Taylor. That's what I reckon. It's suspended for now.
The typical. Imagine blackmail. That would be the most typical thing of FA, wouldn't it? But wonderful. Pice though. Back three, and then hopefully be a bit tactically flexible like we were last game. Is that what you'd like to see as well?
Yeah, bro. I would, but I don't. I almost want to see us play like a 4-3-3 because I don't want to see Gallagher in that pivot. It's going to drive me mad knowing he's going to do it.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. So, yeah, I would like to see a 4-3-3, but
a base flat 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. Interesting. Charlie, what about you? Back three and then shift it around like we did against Spurs, or potentially like Pice and you would start the back four from in the first place, or would you do what we did?
I think
no one would want to do that.
I just think what we've done against Spurs. I mean, you've got it as a front three. I think it probably again will be Mount in behind Havertz and Sterling as a two, which we've seen obviously against Tottenham. And I feel actually Mount had a very decent game in that slightly deeper role behind the front two, dropping into midfield as a third player. That suits his game.
But he was kind of half left because Ruben was kind of here.
Yeah, being able to drift around sort of behind the front two and drift around midfield. I think the positions he picked up were causing Spurs a lot of problems, and I think it suits his natural game a lot better to play there. So I'd probably go with it like that.
Yeah,
I think Matt will obviously play behind those two. Yeah. But in terms of everything else, I think realistically the only option to make is it literally Gallagher coming in for Kante, or is it going to be Reece James at right centre back and Aspie playing? Reece James at wing back and Aspie playing centre back. Those are the only two real selection.
Is it Gallagher midfield or is it Loftus-Cheek midfield?
Yeah, essentially? That's essentially it, basically, really. And the rest of the team picks itself pretty much. Given
there is another question, because I didn't see the press conference, but I believe Tuchel somewhere in it said about the competition between Cucurella and Chilwell. It said if we're playing a back four, it'll be Cucurella. If we're playing a back three with wing backs,
no. If it's a back four, he said they're competing against each other. If it's a back three, then not necessarily, because Chilwell is definitely a wing back and Cucurella can play left wing back and left centre back.
I agree with this. It's just a case of I don't know if it's the only selection problem would be who plays at that right-hand side, then obviously in the midfield. But I do think it's going to be on that left-hand side as well. Which one of the two do you go for? Do you think that the pace is going to be really quick in the game where Chilwell might be better? Or do you think it's going to be a low block? I think
is nailed on starting. Chilwell started that 3-0 under-21s loss or under-19s or whatever it was against Fulham. There's no chance Chilwell starts over Cucurella. Cucurella has such a good game. That would be insane, personally. Wouldn't you say?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it depends on how quickly Chelsea start. I think if Chelsea want to start quick, then Chilwell would be the better option. But if they think that Leeds are going to play the low block,
he doesn't trust himself enough yet to be quick. Like not necessarily in sprinting speed, he might be okay with that, but in the whole turning and quick passing, the more still you're labouring an injury or getting over an injury, the more that will hinder you. I personally think.
Yeah, trust me, Loz, I know.
Yeah, true.
I know at the moment.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, so Ian has basically said he thinks Reece James will, and has kind of hinted at he probably thinks he also should still remain at that right centre back spot. Pice, do you think he should, or would you like to see basically the other option, which would be Aspie or Chalobah, I suppose, at the right centre back, Reece James at wing back, and then Loftus-Cheek in midfield instead of Gallagher? But before you answer that question, for people that didn't watch the press conference, well, actually that wasn't in the watchable part, but I've read it after that somehow, even though I watched the whole thing. Basically, what Tuchel spoke about is how Gallagher is basically the most like-for-like replacement we have for Kante, with Kovacic being out. And what that tells me is that Tuchel in that position isn't necessarily looking for the ball-carrying ability, which, if that's what he was looking for, he would most certainly be playing Ruben there rather than Gallagher. But what I think he's looking for is just the energy and the pressing ability, and that obviously Gallagher has over Ruben. And therefore, it will probably be Gallagher. Therefore, it will probably be James at right centre back and Ruben at right wing back. I don't see Gallagher playing and Ruben being dropped. I think Ruben was too good for that against Spurs, and it would just be an unnecessary change in the team. At the same time, obviously, Reece James did produce a lot. A huge should have been an assist for Kai Havertz, and then scored himself once he was then moved into right wing back, and Ruben was in midfield. So there's certainly a case to be made for it that way as well. But I still think starting with Ruben at right wing back and Reece James at right centre back, and then maybe take Gallagher off and push Ruben into midfield, push James to right wing back and bring Aspie on. I personally think that's better than to start with Reece at right wing back personally. But Pies, would you stick with Reece there, or would you think he should be moving back to right wing back?
Well, that is a lot to unpack, so I'm just going to try and make it simple. What I would do is I would play Reece at right. Yeah, I'd play pretty much what we did last game, in my opinion. I'd play Reece at right centre back, Ruben there, because I think it'd be quite unfair to Ruben to drop him after that performance. And also liked the fluidity and the sort of how they changed. And
like I said, I think he could help Gallagher.
Yeah, he can move into that, make a midfield free. So that would be quite nice. Yeah, I would do that. Yeah.
I think also very quickly, I think it's also easier to get the more out of Reece James if you're moving forward. So if you do need a result in a game, where if you try and start him out of that right wing spot, and then Azpilicueta, who could be very easily come off the bench, play the whole game and then have to come off. you already know you're missing out on one sub. Where Reece James, you can turn around and actually thinking, well, if you allow him to go forward a bit more, it's like bringing on a fresh pair of legs because it's a new problem to deal with for any back three, back four, or whatever.
Very good point. Yeah, no, I do agree. Charlie, would you agree as well that we should keep Reece there? I mean, you said we should just do it how we did it against Spurs. That would mean it's like this.
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes the most sense. And of course, it allows Loftus-Cheek to, as Pi said, fit into that midfield and make it a 3 as well. And yeah, as Ian said, with Reece James who's starting right centre back, if we're chasing the game or whatever, we can just move him out there, and it becomes a much more dangerous option. So yeah, I'm more than happy to go with that again. I think Aspie, yeah, right. If we're being honest, he's like from Tuchel's perspective, Aspie may well has a strong chance of playing, but I don't see any reason to change it from the Spurs game. It works really well, so there's not really much point changing it as far as I'm concerned.
There you go. I agree. And then Charlie, I'll stick with you. Stick also to Cucurella or Cucurella. It's definitely pronounced Cucurella, but everyone else seems to call him Cucurella. And I feel like it sounds nicer, so I haven't decided yet what I'm going to pronounce his name as. Moving forward. There you go, Mark. But Charlie, would you stick to Cucurella at left wing back rather than moving it back to Ben Chilwell?
Yeah, I think I'd stick with him. I don't see any reason to. I mean, Chilwell, obviously, that's the beauty of having Cucurella signed, is because there's no like rush to get Chile back and to rush him back for games because we've got Alonso starting every week. We're in a position now where like Chilwell didn't even play against Spurs. It wasn't even used from the bench. No one said anything. We weren't even discussing it because we've now got someone who can just play to a top level on that left-hand side, and Chilwell can take the time he needs to get himself back to fitness without rushing. So, look, I think Chile might get some minutes from the bench, considering he didn't play at all against Tottenham. Yes, he played in that development game along with a few others. But, yeah, for me, Cucurella hasn't done anything wrong. So, for me, he should continue to start. I mean, Chilwell, I think, could get some minutes from the bench, though, for sure.
I do agree. Before we move on, I think Jester has made a reasonably fair point here, where he says, if Loftus-Cheek starts at right wing back again, and now that we don't have Kante and Kovacic, and let's say it's Jorginho and Gallagher then in midfield, who's the midfield sub? Like, not necessarily that we require it, but just in case. And
I just ban Gilmore on the bench.
Chukwuemeka, obviously.
Yeah.
That is fair, but will Tuchel think of it that way, or will he think, okay, I have to put Ruben on the bench just to make sure I have a good midfield sub, not an 18-year-old that's trained with us for 2 weeks.
He did
play Reece James right wing back and Aspie right centre back. You think Tuchel could do that, even if we disagree?
For me, if he thinks like that, we might as well send Chukwuemeka out on loan because he played 12 games off the bench for Aston Villa, so he's more than experienced in the Premier League.
He's good.
The problem is not in this double pivot. They played a much more attacking position in those appearances.
Why sign him then? Why sign him?
That's a completely different question that I don't have the answer to at all. And I don't know, if I'm honest. Other than that,
he's better than Gallagher there.
Well, because his frame is bigger.
Tuchel disagrees.
because his frame is bigger, he could do that defensive role. Be that bit of like that.
He could, but if he's not learned it, and he's an 8 to a 10 at Villa, then how good will he be at that?
Oh no, I do completely think that he is a ball progressor, but again, because he's got the height, depending on again who you've got in the middle of the park anyway, maybe that would be the most likely solution. Again, depends on how the game's going. If you need to go and change the game, bringing on him who is big enough to do the defensive work, but then also can drive the ball at the pitch, doesn't sound that bad to me.
No, it doesn't sound that bad. Obviously, you have the simple move, just putting Loftus-Cheek into midfield, problem solved. But I think it's more of a case of if one gets injured, then what you do. Because, I mean, Chester mentions Gilmore, says Jorginho hasn't completed a 90 yet this season. Well, he's had another week's worth of training now and another game in his legs, so I'd assume that they will have to come, especially now with two other midfielders injured. That day is likely to come tomorrow, on Sunday, I would say. But even with your concerns, Jester, I think it's still more likely to do this. And we just have Chukwuemeka on the bench. And the first one will be move Reece James to right wing back, push Ruben into midfield. That will be the first sub as such. And it's basically bringing Aspie on for Gallagher. And then if we have another real necessity, then it will be Chukwuemeka. Or pushing Mount back into midfield and bringing one other attack on. I think that's more likely than leaving Ruben out in this one. But
also, at one point, didn't Chalobah come on in midfield against Liverpool very early on last season?
He played there against Watford as well for a little bit.
Not saying it'll work, but it's something to consider.
Wolves and Watford, he played that. But
not saying it's the answer, but just something to potentially think about.
I think the most likely thing to happen is Mount will drop back into midfield and we'd probably bring Ziyech or Pulisic on, especially if we need a goal.
If we bring Chalobah on the midfield, Chukwuemeka will probably hand in a transfer request tomorrow. Like, imagine we signed the kid for 20 million, and then we decide to put Chalobah, who we're apparently looking to loan out, to bring him on the midfield over Chukwuemeka. Like, what's the whole point? I think he's been
hoodwinked and bamboozled, and that phrase.
He will be absolutely human, But there you go. All right, midfield. Yeah. Before I ask you guys, I assume, Pies, you agree on Cucurella, and obviously Ian has already raised this point earlier, just so we don't make this too long. Now, it will be these two, essentially, after what we've said already. There's not really any other options. But just to explain it for everyone that might not have heard everything that happened in the press conference. So, N'golo Kante has been confirmed to be out for quite a while, a quite severe hamstring injury, to keep him out for, around 4 weeks, could be a little bit less. It's Kante, so potentially a little bit more. And Thomas Tuchel did not sound particularly happy. Said he's going to be out for weeks. Not good news. Mateo Kovacic is still out with his knee injury. We still have. I don't understand why a journalist wouldn't ask, "Do you know how long Kovacic will be out for?" It's just a simple question. And then he could tell us, well, maybe next week or maybe in a month. At least we'd know then, because right now we have no idea. Armando Broja is also injured again, unfortunately. Second injury this season already, and put 2 games in, because he had an injury in pre-season, which was the reason he joined pre-season tour late, and then also left pre-season tour again. And then now he's got injured again, which is obviously awful news for him and for us. But also Christian Pulisic is a doubt for the game with an Achilles problem. He did train today, so they seem to be not 100. I feel like if he trained today, there's a chance he's most likely going to be on the bench again. Because I feel like obviously if it flares up again and he's in pain again tomorrow, maybe he's left out. But I feel like if he trains today and then probably trains again tomorrow, I think he's fine to be in the squad on Sunday. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But in terms of midfield, it's not even much point in asking you. It's going to be Jorginho and Gallagher. But I'm going to ask you, Charlie, do you think Jorginho and Gallagher will work as a combination?
There's only one way to find out, isn't there? We'll have to wait and see. But I don't know. Look, I think Gallagher is a good player. Again, he done well at Crystal Palace. Second half of the season, he did trail off a little bit. Obviously, it's hard to judge him this season because stoppage time against Everton, that like you can't tell anything from that. And I thought when he came on against Spurs, for about 12 minutes at the end when Kante was injured, I thought he had good energy on the ball. He looked a little bit hesitant when he got the ball in dangerous areas. There's a couple of times he got it in the box where he almost looked like he wasn't really sure what to do with it. But I think he's a good player. He's got good energy. He gets around the pitch. But again, like me and Pice have discussed this a lot of times before, is he a pivot player in midfield? Probably not. But you wouldn't say that was his best position. Can he do it? I suppose he probably can do it. But it's not an ideal situation to play Gallagher there. But we're going to have to. I just hope, we can bring some energy. You can get on the ball, take players on, just do something. But I think Jorginho will obviously be the more defensive of the two. And hopefully Gallagher, perhaps with Loftus-Cheek filling in if he moves forward, can be a bit more attack-minded, maybe try and create a little bit as well from midfield that we don't really have in there at the moment. But it's not the first choice pair, but I don't think it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, and I think the thing that people HM is laughing at it. I know Pice really doesn't see Gallagher as a pivot player, which may be fair. But I think we also need to consider that Gallagher is very young. And every week that goes by, especially every week that we don't have a midweek game, but it's instead a week full of training. Every week that goes by, and with Tuchel clearly in this current formation and system, seeing him in that position, every week that goes by, I would expect Gallagher to slowly and surely get better at this because, of course, he's not going to be good at it because he's never played it until now because he didn't play it for West Brom, didn't play it for Palace, and didn't play it wherever he was on loan beforehand. And as far as I'm aware, didn't play it in his youth days either. So, of course, he's not going to be perfect at this. But because he's young, N'golo Kante wasn't very good at what he does now until Maurizio Sarri taught him, right? Because before that, he was a flat pivot player that just ran around like a crazy person. But he learned the dribbling and the passing from Sarri, essentially. So, and he was way older, of course, way better, but still way older than Gallagher. So Gallagher can still learn. Now, will he be good enough come Sunday? Maybe not. But what other options do we have? Like, don't have a go at Gallagher for this. Have a go at Kante and Kovacic for constantly being injured. That's not Gallagher's fault, this. This is not Gallagher's fault at all. This Kovacic and Kante's fault, if anything. Well, it's not directly their fault either, because obviously I'm very well aware they do not want to be injured. I know. But this only happens because they are injured. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have this problem, right? But Pice, do you think for a one-off game, especially against a team like Leeds, who are all about energy, and that's Gallagher's biggest attribute, right? So having him in there to help us match Leeds' energy, I think, while coming with other issues, I think could also have that benefit that maybe if it's Jorginho and Kovacic, maybe we wouldn't quite match the energy of Leeds' midfield, and Gallagher could potentially help us with that and therefore deal with them a little bit easier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only sort of, I guess, positive out of it is sort of the energy. You think tracking back, going forward sort of thing, he'd probably be... I guess that's where the comparisons to Kante come from. I just think receiving the ball, on the ball, under pressure, I think I don't rate him too much. That's just my personal opinion. Hopefully he plays really well. You know, it's just some people have opinions on players. I don't think he suits his particular position. I think we might find ourselves leaving a lot of space in midfield, especially if Gallagher does venture forward, and I worry about Jorginho being left with too much open space. So, yeah, we'll see.
I personally wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if as a little bit of an adaptation compared to the Spurs game, where obviously Ruben was this guy, that if this is the pivot, that it becomes maybe a little bit one of those, where Ruben is, rather than being the one that pushes up, Ruben is the one that shifts across to provide cover for when Gallagher moves forward, because Ruben is most certainly a lot more press resistant than Gallagher is. So maybe that's a way of getting around those small problems that Gallagher still comes with. And again, I'm still saying this, maybe not yet, but he's still going to improve at this position. So he won't necessarily forever not be good at this. Could Gallagher mount switch roles mid-games? Potentially, but I feel like I haven't seen Gallagher play as high as Mount does on a regular basis either, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But fair enough. As I, at the moment, can't see Ian on screen, I assume he's unavailable to talk for a minute. So I'm going to move on to the front three, where, especially with Broja out injured, there's a bit less of a debate to be had, really, because even Havertz, as much as he missed the sitter, had a good game last game. So it's kind of, and especially with Pulisic being a doubt, so even if he's fit to make the bench, maybe it stops him from being fit to start the game. And do I want to start Ziyech? No. And then we have no one else anyway. Well, Hudson-Odoi, but Thomas Tuchel doesn't seem to be particularly interested in him. So
is Hudson-Odoi injured?
No one knows. I don't think he is. I say no one knows. No, he isn't. No, he isn't.
I was going to mention this earlier about Hudson-Odoi, but if I can't remember who we were talking about earlier. Was it Kante? I think saying about how he's been doing. He's had a really good pre-season and he's been fit and healthy and all that sort of stuff. And then out of nowhere he becomes injured. That's literally the same thing for Hudson-Odoi, but Hudson-Odoi has been doing it for longer. So it was really irritating, because I was going to potentially throw the suggestion out there that you might play Hudson-Odoi as the right wing back. Not saying we want to, but as a potential option.
Yeah,
but
I mean, as a potential option for us as fans, maybe. But Thomas Tuchel, I'm pretty sure won't. He seems to not be a particular fan.
The case, but
yeah, no, I don't think he's injured, but I guess we'll see. But just quickly, Ian, if you are here, Jorginho and Gallagher, do you think that can work for at least a one-off game? I mean, I say a one-off game until whenever Kovacic is back, or until whenever we decide to not play Loftus-Cheek as a wing-back, but in midfield instead, really. Until then, it will have to be Jorginho and Gallagher, really.
Yeah, I've just moved.
Well, or we sign a midfielder.
Go on.
Or we sign a midfielder, of course, sorry.
Yeah, well, if we do sign a midfielder, it will solve a lot of problems, of course it will. But I'm not a lover of that, and the only reason I was saying potentially about playing Hudson-Odoi as that right wing-back is because that Jorginho and Loftus-Cheek played together in midfield last year. I mean, I remember the FA Cup semi-final, but I think they did it another time as well that I can't think of. So maybe there's a bit more kind of familiarity there. But this is also, let's be real, a game like Leeds is the kind of game you want to have this problem in. You know, so I think this would be the opportunity to find out if this is something that would work. If this was against West Ham, for argument's sake, or anyone kind of above that, of course. But any of those like Europa League pushers and above, you would never be wanting to try this formation in that sort of a game. So I think the fact that it is Leeds, they probably will have a couple of holes to exploit. But still, I think that this is the time to try it, because if it doesn't work, we've learned that lesson. Let's try and move again. If this is what it takes to potentially go, Thomas Tuchel turns around to Bowley and says, I need another centre midfielder, then maybe that's enough. Maybe that is it. But again, I'd like this problem now rather than a couple of weeks down the line when we're playing Champions League. And then I think we have Champions League one week and then we have Liverpool on the weekend, I think. That's the last time you would want this sort of a problem. So if we can figure it out as early as possible, then brilliant.
There you go. And unfortunately, Major General, I think you're completely wrong here, because Jorginho and Loftus-Cheek played very rarely together. Because otherwise, I would never have the complaint that I don't understand why Ruben was never allowed to play the more attacking of the two double pivots. And if he played with Jorginho a lot, then he would have always been that. Meaning clearly that can't have happened that often. So I'm sorry, I think you're unfortunately a little bit wrong on that one. But moving on, Charlie, that front three, well, number one kind of has to be that, but on the basis of last game, probably also should be that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's obviously at the moment, until potentially Aubameyang comes in or any other players come in, that is the go-to front three. Obviously, Broja injured, but at the moment he's probably not starting. Pulisic's not going to start, and Ziyech and Callum don't really want to be at the club or are looking for a way out. So you can't imagine they're going to play. So yeah, that is obviously picks itself. I think Sterling started the season really well. I thought he was very positive against Everton, definitely our best attacker. I think again against Tottenham he was really good as well, causing issues, got the assist for Reece James. Probably should have scored himself, but hopefully the goals will come. But he's definitely made a big difference to the attack, and he's certainly shown the standard that should be expected from Chelsea attackers, given that he's pretty much been our best attacker, and he hasn't really been here that long. So yeah, Havertz again, I think it's a really important game for him, because realistically, he is the number 9 this season. Obviously, Aubameyang could come in, as I said, but Havertz needs a goal in this game for me. Like he doesn't tend to start seasons too quickly.
And Sterling needs a goal, much more importantly.
Because Sterling's done well so far. Yes, obviously it'd be great for him to get on the score sheet, but I think for Havertz, he needs to start scoring.
Havertz was much closer to getting a goal than Sterling was.
Yes, probably, but at the end of the day, they still both didn't. So I mean, Havertz, I think, is one where I don't think there's any doubt over Sterling. Like this signing from 2 games looks like it will work. I know that's early days still, but Havertz, I don't know, just not clinical. I think he put in a decent performance against Spurs in terms of his physicality, his work rate, his pressing and whatnot. But was that just because it was a derby? I don't know. But for me, I think it's a really important game for Kai Havertz that he contributes in a meaningful way. But yeah, I think this front three has worked well. But I think obviously when Aubameyang comes in, I think Havertz will be the one to miss out when Oba does play.
I wonder how long that lasts before Havertz loses his shit and therefore leaves soon as well. I think people don't think about this. Like people might not rate Kai Havertz.
He's not got his.
Do you want Havertz to leave? Because once we sign a striker, Havertz will not play a lot, and he will not.
He's only got himself to blame. Like at the end of the day,
of course,
you shouldn't be afraid of competition like that. No, Like for Havertz, Aubameyang coming in should be like, oh shit, I need to up my game here, because if I don't play well, then Aubameyang's definitely going to play. Whereas at the moment, well, it's just Broja there. Havertz knows that realistically he can kind of not play that well, and he knows he's going to start most weeks because
but see, do you think footballers think like that? Because do you think he wants to play badly and not?
No, he doesn't want to play. No, he doesn't want to play badly.
He feels bad about himself.
He might not try
by every fan on social media.
No, but he knows that regardless of how, no one goes like out to play shit, but he knows if he doesn't play well, that Tuchel's not really going to start Broja as of yet. So Havertz knows that regardless of how he plays, he knows he's pretty much going to start.
Same with Mount and Sterling. Mount knows that he can get away with Mount. He can get away with 2 or 3 bad games, and he still won't get dropped.
But he's got that credit in the bank though, whereas Havertz doesn't really have any credit in the bank anymore. I think that Champions League winning goal, as great as it was, that credit's done now. He needs to start doing something in the Premier League on a consistent basis.
I was just going to say, sorry, very quickly.
That's right,
about Mount. I mean, you look at potentially when he was there. When he was 19, 20, that first season. Then Werner came in and Ziyech came in the following summer, of course, with Havertz and all these sort of people. There was obstacles there in his way and some big fees that Mason Mount obviously had no part in, but they had to go out there. He knew that they were going to play and they were going to be trying to justify them. And Mason Mount, to be fair to him, has managed to leapfrog a fair few of these players. Obviously, he hasn't got a price on his own head because he was an academy graduate, but I mean, he has gone out of his way to and elevated his game, in my opinion, anyway, to get around and get ahead of certain people in the pecking order. And it feels like at times Havertz has never done it. And I think people now, when there are some bigger names coming in, you're thinking about Sterling, you're thinking about Aubameyang as well. I asked you the question before we started, Pice, but we're thinking potentially if Aubameyang comes in, it's going to be Sterling on the left, and then it'd be Aubameyang down the middle, and then it'd be a fight between who plays on the right-hand side. And as of right now, Mount's winning that battle over Havertz for me, and I think it will be for most people.
Look, that's the problem with Havertz. I've said this all the time. Like, what is he? Because for me, he's mostly like a second striker, but we don't really ever play with two strikers. Maybe it will change in game, but we line up with two sort of inside forwards and the one up top. So yeah, I mean, that to be fair, I like Havertz, but that comment does kind of describe him. Is he our number 9 or is he not? Clearly, Tuchel doesn't think so. So I don't know. He needs to improve and start scoring goals, and that was my worry with him because he's not a creator, and for me, he's not really a goal scorer either. He's kind of like a luxury player that you just sort of sprinkle in.
A friend of mine gave a comparison that I thought was really good. Shout out Luke, but he said he's like Berbatov. Berbatov was brilliant when he played with someone, but he was never the same player when he played alone. And that seems to be the case. I mean, you look at, it was Newcastle that he scored the goal against, where Dan Burn let him go. I mean, in that moment, it's a last minute winner and whatever, but there was 2 or 3 threats on the pitch. And when he became not the solitary threat, he allowed himself a little bit of movement to get that lovely little touch. Yes, there was the error from Dan Burn, but still a really, really good finish. It's great skill, it's quality, and it's depth, and that's what Berbatov would do often. But again, if we don't play like that, that's just a £72 million player, and what's he on, about 150, 200 grand a week, Havertz, something like that?
Not quite sure what he's on.
I don't know, but either way, that's sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
The difference is Berbatov didn't press. Havertz does. So
of course, I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but
Berbatov was for me much more skillful as well. Like Havertz
actually had quality.
Did any of you even ever hear the name Dimitar Berbatov when Dimitar Berbatov was 22 years old?
Exactly.
You probably never even heard his name. So how can you say Berbatov's better?
he got
watched
so
some of the
much
goals he
better
scored.
as he got older.
Yeah. Later in his career, but Havertz is now 22.
Yeah,
well,
Havertz isn't really showing any signs of progression. That's the problem.
None of us.
Is Havertz in his 3rd season now? Is Havertz any better than when he joined from Leverkusen? I don't think he's improved at all as a footballer since he's been here.
No,
do you remember Hazard in his 3rd season?
Hazard was generational since he was signed from Lille. That guy was unbelievable, bro. I remember watching him back in the day. He was just.
He wasn't joking that first year when we had the Europa League football. He carried us on so many occasions. Yeah. But in his 3rd season with the club, I'm pretty sure, if my maths is correct, didn't his 3rd season we win the league?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been Conte, wouldn't it?
No, that was Mourinho. Was that Mourinho's first
one? Oh, the Mourinho first one, yeah.
First season, or for the first time.
No. So Hazard's first season was the Di Matteo and Benitez. So Hazard's 2nd season was Mourinho's 1st season back when we had Torres, Eto'o, and Demba Ba. And then Hazard's 3rd season would have been when we won the title in Mourinho's 2nd spell.
Yeah. 14-15, yeah. But you're thinking now, I mean, obviously that was a great deal for Hazard, obviously, but you're thinking about a player like Havertz. Should we not be seeing more out of him? Again, a young player, also a generational talent.
I'm just not sure how well placed this debate is ahead of this game because Pulisic is a doubt. We haven't.
I just mean generally.
You don't even have another option than Havertz anyway.
No.
Like, I see RD crying about Pulisic. Mate, Pulisic's injured. Like, I know you're saying he's back in training. Yeah, he's back in training after he was injured, right? So before we talk about potentially Pulisic start, we need to see if he even trains again tomorrow or if his Achilles hurts again tomorrow. Like, we don't even decide. Don't talk to me about, of course, Havertz is out. We don't even know if Pulisic's fit. Like, I agree that Havertz was shocking against Everton, that he was poor in pre-season. He was decent against Spurs. Should have scored 1,000,000%. Should have scored. But for now, it's like until Aubameyang comes in and we see how it works with him, it's a pointless debate.
I think the biggest thing about Havertz is though,
since we last discussed it, obviously nothing has changed since then.
I think the biggest thing about Kai right now is that if Aubameyang comes in and he doesn't play, I don't think anyone's asked. Like if Havertz don't play,
except Aubameyang, and he's going to cause all sorts of problems.
But that's what I mean. Like if Havertz,
which is why personally, I also think if Aubameyang comes in, that is not competition for Havertz. That's Havertz being on the bench, and Aubameyang will play every game. Tuchel wants Aubameyang so badly.
Yeah,
Havertz is not going to get sniffed, and that's why I don't see it as competition.
People won't be bothered. Like if Havertz is in the side, if Havertz is not in the side, and Aubameyang plays instead, no one's going to be asked because Havertz doesn't deserve to be in the lineup ahead of Aubameyang. He doesn't. Like if Havertz can go out and prove that he deserves to play, because at the moment Havertz is very much playing because we haven't really got anyone else. He's not playing on merit, in my opinion. I don't think he's done anything to justify his position in the team right now, other than the fact there isn't really anyone else.
I was going to say it speaks volumes about Armando Broja as well, because surely this has got to be an opportunity that he's looking at thinking, Jesus, I could be starting number 9 for Chelsea. Yeah. This could be my position. And he's never grabbed it.
Well, he's injured again, unfortunately. So.
Oh, he's injured again? Oh, fair enough. Sorry.
Yeah, he's missing he's missing the Leeds game, yeah.
No, I must have missed it. But still, you'd like to think that at some point he'd be, really up for it. And, I mean, we've all played football. You know someone within an hour. You know if they're a good footballer or not. I mean, Thomas Tuchel is with these players multiple times a day, multiple times a week for the last 6 weeks or whatever it's been. Surely you've got to think by now, Broja would have shown something to say, I might be worth a shot over Kai Havertz, Because we all think he is, but other people...
I also think Tuchel really likes Havertz, and I just think he'll play somewhere. I don't know where, but I know he wants Alba, but I don't know. I just feel like with the Broja debate, I feel like even if Broja did really well, I still would see Havertz starting, and that's like pretty sad to me because that means like at that point, what is the point of fighting for your position?
Yeah, no, I agree. I do. But again, it's one of those things you want players to be there for merit. You don't want them just to be there for the sake of being there. And that was really where Arsenal kind of lost it because Lacazette massively dropped off. And then that meant that Aubameyang knew that he was going to start week in, week out as a centre forward or wherever the hell he wanted to play. And Arsenal didn't get the most out of him. And now we look at Aubameyang, who obviously is a phenomenal player. He's gone to Barcelona and I'm sure he scored at one point. I mean, he had like 5 in 4 games or something stupid really early on. But again, you just like to think that players will be playing because of the merit rather than just the name that surrounds them. It's really irritating.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one because clearly Tuchel wants pressing players in the team. And as much as Havertz misses chances and does, if he does press, and Tuchel clearly wants, I mean, just look at the fact we're interested in Anthony Gordon. He just wants players that press, right? Which is, again, why I'm not sure why we're signing Aubameyang, because he doesn't. But, doesn't as much, and the older he gets, the less he will do it. Just naturally. This is not even me trying to have a go. It would just become less, right? But yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. Havertz needs to step up. I think he did step up from Everton to Spurs. There was an improvement there. I think anyone that says there wasn't is lying. Hence why I think the discussion is a little bit misplaced because I'm like, well, obviously he had one game since you last had a go at him. So obviously he didn't have more opportunities to show new things, different things, whatever. Since the Everton game only once, and in that game he played better, but missed a sitter. But played good otherwise. So it's
more of a long-term discussion, bro. But
we're just repeating the exact same criticism we had 2 weeks ago. And since then, he's not had a chance to do anything different. So you can't really
he had a chance to score that goal against Spurs and he absolutely fluffed it. So it's clearly not another night,
but chance is not just chance in terms of, at least according to Thomas Tuchel, who is the manager you guys are all trying to back, right? According to him, it's not just about finishing. Otherwise, Havertz wouldn't be playing in the first place. Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, Lukaku would have worked, right? The fact that Lukaku didn't work shows you that why Havertz is playing, essentially. And that's also partly why I'm doubting how well Aubameyang will work. Because I don't think Aubameyang will have the work rate that Havertz will have. And then I fear that it will have potentially similar issues that we have with Lukaku, where Tuchel will just be fuming at him not running enough. then yeah, whatever. We'll just have. I don't know whether that will come true. That's my worry. But apparently, there's something going on about Ziyech going back to Ajax, which just be.
I think it's basically on the premise of Anthony leaving. It would be a loan deal with an option to buy.
Okay.
But I think it depends on. I think it depends on if Anthony goes or not.
Yeah, it depends on if he goes to Man United, Anthony. Also,
Will
Fabrizio's
United
just
really
said,
bid even more?
Well,
Yeah,
I think they're prepared to. Yeah.
they're bidding €100 million apparently.
That
For
is
Anthony.
mental.
Mental. I know.
Do you know what's mad though?
Absolutely.
Right? They could have got him for €60 million in July. Like they could have got him for that much, and they fucked about.
Really?
I was just going to say as well, but
How do we know
Fabrizio
that?
said
How do we know that they would have said yes to 60 at the time?
But I think they would have done. I think
they
would
were
have
more open to a deal. The later on
Yeah.
into the window, it's obviously they're less open to selling. That's why we
Same
need to
thing we were
hurry up
saying
with
about Fofana.
Yeah.
Great
I don't know
minds
if
think
you
alike,
also
guys.
want to bring up Fabrizio's tweet as well. He said something about Aubameyang, maybe if you want to bring that up.
Oh, a new one. Okay, I will get that up in a second. But yeah, there's that information. Hakim Ziyech is the #1 replacement target should Anthony leave. Fair enough. I mean, again, I'm in a situation which can we stop? I say can we stop getting rid of them? We haven't gotten rid of any of them other than Van and Lukaku. But there's obviously talk with Chalobah, Hudson-Odoi going out on loan. Pulisic loan interest from flipping Man United, which I still, like we discussed the other day, hope will not happen because it's insanity to me to let that happen. Do you know what I mean? And, with all the criticism for Kai Havertz, I'm like, we should be getting rid of all of these forwards? I don't know. But, I'm trying to get up this Fabrizio Romano tweet, and then we're going to round it out here. But Pice, you know what? While I get this up, why don't we quickly discuss score predictions? What do you think? Positive ahead of Sunday?
I'll go with 2-0 Chelsea. Yeah, I'll go 2-0. More confident now that I think Tuchel's going to be on the touchline. I was going to go for a draw, but I think we'll win now.
Yeah, I think we'll win as well. Ian, what do you reckon? Score prediction?
I'll go a little bit more negative than Pice. I'll go for a 2-1, but still a win.
Fair play. Charlie, what do you reckon?
That's what I was going to go for. I think a 2-1 as well. I think I think we've got enough to grab a couple of goals, but probably let one in. So yeah, 2-1 for me.
See, so how have Leeds played so far? I checked.
I think a win and a draw.
Basically,
A win and a draw. They scored 2 goals in both.
Yeah, Rodrigo's basically been scoring a lot for them. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
So currently they have the same amount of points as us. Rodrigo
Yeah,
scored
both
3
on
goals
4
already.
Yeah.
It's Rodrigo that's scoring the goals for them at the moment.
Would be interesting to see if they put Reece James on him for 90 minutes.
It's interesting. He's playing behind
But he's on the other
striker,
side, isn't he? Doesn't he play on there like right?
So Rodrigo's been playing behind Bamford in like
Bamford.
attacking.
I don't think Bamford's playing. I think he's
Yeah,
injured.
I think he might be injured as well. So
Yeah. He came off after 28 minutes last game. Yeah, he plays as a 10, but Rodrigo. But because he's left-footed, I feel like he shifts to the right and then comes inside. That's kind of what he does. So I'm not sure if Reece James can necessarily stop Rodrigo as much. But my prediction, I'm going to be quite confident, I'm going to say 3-1. Not sure where we're going to get 3 goals from, if I'm honest. Probably it's Reece James' hat-trick. But, there's maybe a Cucurella debut goal or first goal for Cucurella. That'd be quite fun. Maybe Ruben gets on the score sheet. At least Jorginho had one wonderful pass against Spurs where he kind of floated it over the top to Ruben, and Ruben probably should have, definitely could have scored with header, but unfortunately missed it. But yeah, I must say 3-1. I'm going to be positive. But let me quickly get up this. I say positive. It's just a little bit different to you guys. Let's get this Fabrizio Romano tweet up. It says, Barcelona and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's camp will meet tonight. Direct talk to discuss Chelsea deal and so how to proceed after personal terms were agreed last night or yesterday night. Barca asked for cash instead of Marcos Alonso included in this deal as they have to register Koundé. So, of course, which is, am I personally surprised by this? No, because no one in European football wants to do swap deals. Someone just needs to tell Todd Bowley about this because clearly he's not gotten the gist yet. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, the ideal, of course, would be the Barcelona accept £50 million plus Alonso. But yeah, if they're not, and then we won't, and then we won't increase the offer because we don't want to pay more, then it just sounds like we waste another 2 weeks. So hopefully, either we change our mind and just pay more, even though I'm not I'd rather us overpay for Aubameyang than have wasted 2.5 weeks on Aubameyang. Like, I'd rather overpay than have wasted more time, because that would piss me off way more. But hopefully they will, I guess, accept it, because at the same time they really want Alonso. So why wouldn't you just accept it? Do you know what I mean? Like, just accept it. And also, do you need so much more money to register Koundé? Because if that's the case, how are you ever going to register Alonso then?
I was going to say, would that 15 million be enough to register the pair of them or not?
No way.
Yeah.
Well, I say that, no way. I have no idea, but I assume not. Otherwise, this.
I don't know what Koundé's contract. I don't know what Alonso's is. Or will be.
It's just silliness. I mean, no one knows what Alonso's contract is. Probably even Alonso doesn't know. He probably thinks it's going to be super high, and then Barcelona tell him, actually, you get that in 4 years. For the next 4 years, you get two quid a month. So I mean, watch Barcelona do that. I won't be surprised.
For the next 2 years, you owe us 20 quid a month.
Probably. No. They will only say that come January once they've realised how bad he is.
Yeah. And try and take him to court.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, at the end of the day, let's hope we get this done, whatever this scenario is. I don't care. Give them more money if you have to. If they accept the Alonso deal plus cash deal, brilliant. But just get it done. Same with the Fofana stuff. Get it done. And then we can spend the last 1.5, 2 weeks that we have then of the window to make sure we still get a midfielder. Then we can focus on that. And also, by the way, still figure out whether Kepa is leaving. Because if Kepa is leaving, we still need a backup goalie, which people seem to forget about. Unless Kepa is all of a sudden fully staying now, because I haven't heard it's been linked to a backup goalie since Strakosha, who hasn't gone to Brentford, but he didn't play.
Didn't the Napoli deal fall through because they were going to go after Keylor Navas from PSG?
Yeah, I think it's gone a little bit quiet for Kepa on that front, because he was close to Napoli, and now they might look at Navas instead. But I mean, Kepa could still leave, but again, we're leaving it. We're cutting it fine if we're going to let him go, because his number 2 keeper is quite hard to find.
Also, some good news. I don't know if you guys saw it this morning, but the Emerson to West Ham deal is definitely back on. Yeah, so that's good.
That's good.
That is good that Emerson to West Ham deal is back on. I mean, apparently the wages are still a bit of an issue. Apparently,
he wants
West Ham. Honestly, just take the piss. They are so up and down with their negotiations.
Emerson wants 90k from West Ham, and I think he's on 75 at the moment at Chelsea. So he wants like a 15k pay rise.
It's only 75k at Chelsey.
I think it's on 75.
That's nothing for West Ham. Like,
we should have just kept him. We should have just kept him for that money. 75k compared to all we paid Malang Sarr 120, and we're paying Emerson 75. What a deal Marina struck there. But yeah, I mean, do I think he's worth 90k a week? Personally, yes. Can West Ham afford it? Yes. So fucking pay it, you little bitches. But anyway, if Kepa's staying, brilliant. I personally think we should just keep him, because I can't be bothered for us signing an awful last-minute backup goalie. Like, backup goalies you sign at the start of the window, when there's more free agent goalies available, like when there's more like promoted, relegated goalies available. You don't sign backup goalies in August. Like, no, that's silly, because you cost yourself opportunities of much better ones that were available for potentially free early in the window. So, my opinion now, sorry, Kepa, you get the cup games again. We're all going to love you all season. And yeah, just stick around, please. Come on now. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to round it out here, as I said earlier. And we still have nearly 300 people watching, which I very much appreciate. We're very, very close to 15,000 subscribers, like 60 odd, maybe less now if some of you have subscribed. So if you're new here, please very much so do subscribe. And if you don't have a Google account and that's why you haven't subscribed, please just make a Google account, subscribe. And if you're not sure about subscribing, well, subscribe anyway. And then in a few weeks' time again, like, you can think about it again and unsubscribe if you really need to. But just subscribe now, smash the like button for me, and please do follow all of my wonderful guests down in the description. Ian's channel's link down below, Craigo28. Or is it still Craigo28 football, mate? I feel like it's
Craigo28 now.
There you go. Craigo28, link is down in the description, as is Charlie's channel at the Blues Brothers, and of course, Pice's website and Twitter. The website is chelseafc365.com. Check out all of those things. Thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. Upwards and onwards. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.